Crypto. All the crypto news in one place.
So starting off on Monday, you'll know that Strategy bought 10,000 Bitcoin. We thought he wasn't diehard to the cause, and there he was again, almost $1 billion worth of Bitcoin bought on Monday.
That's a pretty Chad move, really, isn't it?
Pretty Chad move. That's after the week prior where there was all the FUD around, Strategy's dividend reserve. What's he doing with that? It didn't last long. So we got the dividend reserve. We stacked some fiat. He felt dirty from that. So he said, let's go back and buy some Bitcoin.
I love it.
There we go.
I love it.
Bitcoin will not move unless ETF flows come back. Saylor is buying. He bought again this week. He'll announce it tomorrow. Probably, it sounds like another big buy. But he's the only guy buying right now. Retail has no money.
So what to be ready for next week? Fed officials speaking all week. Tuesday, you have the data coming out again. Thursday, CPI, November, Bank of Japan, and Bank of England. And then you have also the ECB, European Central Bank, but you have the Bank of Japan here on Friday as well. So keep that in mind.
Also, unfortunately, back in extreme fear, Guy.
Ugh.
Are you extremely fearful?
I am extremely fearful, but only because this Labubu is giving me funny looks. But yeah, so yes, because we had optimism you felt kind of returning, but now as Christmas approaches, it's going back down again.
Get inside. I don't really. This metric doesn't matter to me, to be honest. But anyways, it's all one perpetual emotional state, stoicism. That's what's I've been taught here.
That's all you can be.
Yeah.
As the company stock, Berkshire Hathaway plunges below its 200-day moving average, signaling Warren Buffett has a fiduciary duty to the shareholders to put all this cash into some other asset. Again, he has never held this much cash ever, yet he makes the case that it's not smart to hold cash long term because it's only losing value.
And one of those bubbles is MicroStrategy. So MicroStrategy's bubble is bursting at this point. It's down a lot. Let's give it a little measure just for fun. 71% from the high. So I think this bubble needs to finish popping in order for Bitcoin to also get to its low.
Still think there's a likeliness that you could see MicroStrategy bounce from here, and that bounce at some point in time is probably going to test between 235 and 260 into this area of interest. That's going to be your complacency bound to a lower high. And then I'm expecting further downside, at least into the 100 region, back below these lows, possibly even as low down as 50. And then I think that MicroStrategy will probably base out, for the rest of the time. So if you do something like that, you're probably going to base out at some point in 2026, reaccumulate, and then you can run the whole playbook all over again if you believe that MicroStrategy is going to be a high beta player and it's going to outperform Bitcoin. This is like trading Bitcoin on leverage without really the risk of liquidation because you're buying pretty much spot MicroStrategy. So those are the positioning.
Of course, the Bank of Japan has a rate cut decision coming on the 19th, 18th, later this week anyway. People are freaking out, man, because there's correlation, baby. We need to talk about what the correlation is, if it actually matters.
Right now, there's an about 98% chance that the BOJ will once again hike their interest rates. And the history on Bitcoin is, in my opinion, once again set to repeat itself again. So on today's update video, I am going to talk obviously about what this means for the Bitcoin price action. I'm going to talk about how historically this has played out. I will be talking about the big ascending triangle we're still creating and where we're currently still are trading in. And I do think that nearing the end of the week, we could start to see some big volatility hit the markets.
One of the most immediate risks is what known as a maturity wall. In 2025, roughly $7 trillion in US Treasury debt will mature close to 30% of GDP. When the debt comes due, it must be refinanced, meaning the Treasury will need to issue massive amount of new bonds just to replace the existing obligations. If the demand fails to keep pace, the refinancing wave could sharply push yield higher, potentially accelerate the spiral. Credit downgrades and inflation risk. The government debt burden is already producing visible consequences. Moody's recently downgraded US sovereign credit from AAA to AA1, making it only the third downgrade in US history.
This is a nice little chart here, Bitcoin price versus the DXY. And we're going to see that, again, it's like it's like the opposite effect. In blue here is Bitcoin, and in red is the dollar, the DXY. And we can see that, as the Bitcoin rises up, we can see the dollar going down. Now there's a little bit of fluctuations here. Nothing's perfect, but we can just see here again, it's like an accordion going in and out.
If we actually confirm candle closes in the price of Bitcoin below around 88,000, and especially if we fail to get back above that level, start to form some new lower highs, lower lows here in the shorter term on the 6-hour chart, 4-hour chart, etc., then in that situation, of course, that will officially be a breakdown of this short-term bullish price structure, ultimately continuing the larger bearish trends that we've already been in over the last couple of months.
But of course, if I'm looking, for example, at the liquidity heat map, I can see there's liquidity being built up on both directions. And that means that there is a very big possibility that they're going to be first maybe a squeeze towards the downside and then a big move towards the upside, or vice versa. But one thing is for sure, there is big volatility about to hit.
Going back to the price here, I do want to show you the target of this bear flag, which I think conservatively would be calculated as such, which gives us a target of $74,000. And I've told you guys before that I think that this orange line here obviously is massive point of previous resistance down here at 71K. You can also see that in the VPVR, there is a massive cluster down here.
We can also look on the daily time frame, and basically you can see, this is what I mean, inverse, right? Inverse to what you're seeing on Bitcoin would be a bull flag that would be starting to form over here. You can see that a bull flag is starting to form. Yes, it can grind a little bit further over here, but as long as it's holding above those moving averages, this is more likely to begin to break towards the upside over there, and that equals this pushing up into 7.78, which will be painful.
You can stop here maybe at 84.6. Next level, 70,000. So I'm a bear. That's a breakdown of a bear flag. That's on the way. It's either double bottoming or bear flagging.
Then comes recency bias. Investors assume whatever is happening right now will continue happening indefinitely. If price is falling, they project that forward. If sentiment is bleak, they assume it will stay that way. Recency bias makes people see short-term turbulence as long-term doom. But if you zoom out, these dips look almost identical across cycles. Fear clusters at the same moments, even when the long-term trend remains intact. What's interesting is how on-chain data captures the difference between what people feel and what they actually do.
So the first reason for why is Bitcoin dropping, the answer is because this time is not different, right? That's the clearest answer. Now, I know there's a lot of people that are saying that it is different and that things are playing out in a different way this time because of institutional interest and whatever other reasons. And look, there's always a chance that they are right, but the reality is that Bitcoin historically has always topped in the fourth quarter of the post-halving year. Q4 of 2013, Q4 of 2017, Q4 of 2021, and Q4 of 2025. So,
if something like Google Gemini or ChatGPT had a data breach, maybe this, at the level of sophistication, maybe this would be a well-funded state actor or something, or like, I don't know. There are some parties that could probably do this type of thing. What's the worst case scenario? Would they really have access to every user's logs, chat logs, and be able to leverage that in the future?
Yeah, they would have your chat logs. And depending on what you say to ChatGPT, that could be quite compromising. And there are some people today who use ChatGPT for relationship advice, for personal advice. It is their psychologist. It is maybe even their virtual girlfriend or boyfriend, as the case may be. Sure. The information that you give a ChatGPT is incredibly intimate. It's literally a private conversation with somebody who, in some cases, is your best friend. And that is all potentially leakable, accessible, subpoenaable, and also available to hackers as well.
So, did you enjoy the app? Let me know in the comments.